of Malachi chapter 3. I'm just going to read that, and then I'm just going to give you each sixth one, and then we're going to go right into the seventh one. I think the seventh one is so powerful, and because I really want you to get what God is saying. It really blessed me in the seventh one. All six was amazing, the blessings of the tithe, but the seventh one, it stood out because of what God promised He'll do for us when we give tithe, when we give offering, when we do it cheerfully, and we're not angry about it, we're not frustrated about it. When we do this, God will honor us. Malachi 3:10, bring ye all the tithes of the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now here, which is the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, said the Lord of hosts. And all the nations shall call you blessed, for ye shall be a delightsome land, said the Lord of hosts. And we just said is that the purpose of tithing is to show that God is first in our lives. All right. So we said the first blessing of a tithe was, if I will not open you the windows of heaven. We said the second blessing of the tithes is, I will pour you out a blessing that shall not be room enough to receive. We said the third blessing of a tithe is, I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. And we found out is that the fourth blessing of the tithe is, he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground. That's the fourth blessing. And the fifth blessing of the tithe we discovered and we discussed, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field. That's the fifth blessing of the tithe. And the sixth that we covered last week, we found out all nations shall call you blessed. All right, and so today I want to focus all of our attention on the seventh blessing of the tithe, which I think is absolutely amazing. I want you to write this down. You shall be a delightsome land. God said this is the seventh blessing of the tithe. You shall be a delightsome land. You shall be a delightsome land. That's what it says. That's what it says in verse 12. You shall be a delightsome land. And so we understand that. All right, so a delightsome land, write this down, it means a land of good pleasure. It means a land of good pleasure. God said you should be a land of good pleasure. Now watch this now, voices. This is what, as I got to studying, God's not talking about the land. He's talking about you. He said wherever you are, that land's going to prosper. It doesn't matter if your job moved you from Georgia and you go into the state of Idaho. And you say, what's in Idaho? You are. It doesn't matter where you go. God says when you are obedient, it's not the land, it's you. So wherever you walk at, you shall walk on the land. That's why whenever Isaac dug, he hit water because it wasn't the land, it was Isaac. So he said this now. He said, you shall be like paradise. When I begin to read this, oh man, I begin just to worship God and I begin to give God glory is because God said, this is what my original plan for your life was. Is that everything that you touched, everything that you walked in, God said, I showed favor to your life. Your tithe creates a delightsome land. Your tithe restores you back the blessings that God promised you. Sin and disobedience of the tithe caused God to make the land unpleasing. What? Everything you was going through seemed like it was a struggle, seemed like you're fighting with it. It's because you had gotten out of the will of God, and everything you did seemed like it was difficult, it was a struggle. Everything you entered in with relationships, it was a struggle. Why? It's because you had gotten out of the will of God. Gotten out of the will of God. And so God sends a drought in our lives when we're not obedient to His word. He sends a drought. The tribe of Judah experienced this drought when they lost focus of how good God had been to them. See, the danger of success is after a while, you stop giving God praise. The danger of success is that when I first get it, I give all praise to God. But the more I get it, you start thinking the job. And the more I get it, you start thinking it was you. And God has to strip you of you and the job to let you know it was me all along. I give you the power to get wealth. And so the tribe of Judah lost focus of the tribe of Judah was God's favorite. Watch this. They were worshipers. Even a worshiper can lose focus on God when God starts to bless you. Let me show you in the Word of God. Go to Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 11 and 12. Nehemiah had to put them in their place. They crying, saying, God, I don't understand. Why did you leave a worshiper? God, all I do is worship you. Why have you forsaken me? Nehemiah had to put them in their place. Look, Nehemiah 13:11. Then I contended with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? Judah was complaining because they were no longer prospering. And Judah was crying, praying, God, I don't understand, God, why am I not prospering anymore? Nehemiah said, and I gathered them together and had to put them in their place. Nehemiah said, this is the reason why. Then brought all Judah the tithe, look at this, of the corn and the new wine and the oil unto the treasures. If you continue to read, as soon as they started back tithing, the blessings overtook them again. It's because they couldn't figure out, y'all gonna get this, is that when we don't tithe, oh, God, this thing blessed me. God said, I don't divorce you. I just separate from you. You know, there are folk who go and get a legal separation. We still married, but we don't live together no more. I want you to see what God said now, because you got to get this, is that because of the tithe, the blessings start to overtake them all over again. Tithing works. It works. It causes God to make your land fruitful, make it delightsome. It makes it delightsome. Jacob associated God's blessing with a delightful land. Jacob associated God's blessing with a delightsome land. He associated God's blessing with a delightful land. You got to get this, is that Jacob associated, if my land is blessed, God is covering me. Look, go to Genesis 28 and 20. Genesis 28 and 20. I want you to see, this thing blessed me in such a major way. I had to worship God the entire time I've been studying this. Genesis 28 and 20. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me, look at the vow Jacob made, and will keep me in this way that I go. See, everywhere I go, every place my foot step on, if God will be with me and keep me no matter where I go, will give me bread to eat, keep food in my stomach, raiment to put on, keep clothes on my children's back, so that I come again to my father's house in peace. Jacob said, God, if you do that for me, then shall the Lord be my God. If everywhere I walk, God, you bless me in favor. Everywhere I go, God, you put clothes, you give me food. No matter what I do, God, you keep me covered in the blood. He said, then you shall be my God. Look what he says. Look at verse 22. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. Jacob said, I'm going to stand on your word, God. And of all that thou shalt give me, I don't care what it is, God. Y'all read it. And God, I will surely give you a tenth of everything you give me. Jacob said, you be my God. Everywhere I go, God, you bless me. God, I won't forget you, God. Everywhere, everything you give me, I don't care what it is, God. I don't care how much it is, God. I don't care if it's $50 million, God. A tenth of it is going to you. That's what Jacob said. Jacob said, God, I'm going to keep my word if you keep yours. I want you